what is like a session normally consist of? What are people like starting to listen to just so they could kind of
Right.
get the expectation down?
Yeah. So we have basically some tones that are almost more like sound medicine, if you will. They're not, but they're like, they're pretty high, especially our original tones. They're like a hammer, to the autonomic nervous system. So it can be pretty like, whoa, it doesn't sound like music. This is not Pink Floyd. This is these are not kind of linear. And some of those tones were 1 minute tones, and they were so intense. Really, it was just like 1 minute dose, 1 minute, of that. And there's a program called Calm, and Michael Johnson Performance has been using. I'm just giving you an example, and these are Michael Johnson was, he won all the gold shoes, and he's got a great center for speed down in McKinney, Texas. And I go down there and work with athletes and things like that. And Brian McCall, their sports director, is just incredible. Performance director is incredible. And he found out about us, contacted me. I went down there. He started introducing HUSO to their combine program, the NFL combine. And so you've got big football players, guys right out of college but combine is probably the most intensely stressful period of their life. It's like a job interview that they go to camp for, not only their whole career, but camp for 9 weeks for, and then they go into this combine, which is testing their athletic ability, their personality, but everything, for how they're going to go in the draft, or if they were going to be drafted. And so HUSO it's been part of that program. So with Calm, they were finding that, they would, put these football players, and they just couldn't deal with it. It was like, cause they're so stressed, so we had to kind of back off the pads a little bit, let the body kind of let it come to them, because they were just resisting that transformation. But once it could switch, it's like it switches and they realize they're not going to lose everything. And it's like a hammer,
Yep.
So we developed, out of working with people like that, we started developing tones that were, if you will, I'm giving an analogy. I'm not saying this is medicine because I can't really say that, but basically we sugar-coated the medicine a bit. So we brought in some tones like integrate, opening, Oceana, like basically with some more bird sounds and things like that. So that really lets the body relax. Bird sounds are important. If you perceive bird sounds around you, you think everything's cool because the predators aren't around. The birds are the first ones to figure out predators are coming. So things like bird sounds are very unique. So that we did start to bring in some nature sounds, but that were not human. So they're sprinkled in as kind of the sugar in the medicine.
You're not adding in any car horns or ambulances, correct?
No, not doing any of that. Not doing
It's the thing I always tell people about the city. Listen, I lived in the city for 15 years, just sold my place in the city. I'm out in nature now a little bit more. You don't even realize how that affects your nervous system. The constant bombardment in New York City of always ambulances, horns, car engines versus something like in nature, it's more crickets and it's more, the birds and just the rustling of leaves. And those are things that actually activate our parasympathetic, get us de-stressed versus all those other sounds are just little stressors that maybe you won't perceive and be, I am stressed, but over time they add up. You're constantly in this kind of fight or flight, which is very bad for you. That's why I think city living isn't the best. I understand the opportunities. I lived there. I loved it, but I would always say you got to get into nature if you really want to balance it out.
Yeah. And some people thrive in the city, of course, and you're going to, and those people are going to be super productive and, probably financially, making a killing if they can survive. But they are still an organic, they're an organic being, if you will. And you have to have that balance. Yes. Everyone does, and you can't, it's almost like I describe it like music. If you just have notes all the time and no breaks between the notes, you're just going to have static. Yeah. It's just not going to make any sense. There's not going to be, and eventually that static, you need those periods between the notes so that the notes actually make sense, in your body. Yeah. So I think, we have, definitely with HUSO on the go or with the home unit, we have executives working with that. I've got a lot of testimonials of people they'll just go for a huge, meeting, really important, pitch or something like that, run for 10, 15 minutes on the system, come in and their set, so this is when you're in balance. Our tones also, it's not that you're totally catatonic, but it's just very clear mind. Football players, they can see we have a focus and a clarity program. They're just feeling that, play slows down. They can kind of have a sense of what's going on. Derek Morgan, who's now retired, was one of our first users. Really interesting. He's became a vegan, Tennessee Titan. And just really saw that was, HUSO system he was using it with his kids. It can really improve focus. That's important, especially when we're all a little ADHD these days. All the different things going on.
It's wonderful that it's being used to really optimize performance. It's being used in athletes, top performers out there. But I also know there's a benefit for chronically ill, which right now is the majority. 6 out of 10, supposedly, if not more, have at least one chronic condition.